Welcome to my sewing studio. This video is a part 2 of the video how to make shorts from an existing pair of shorts, how to copy your clothes. So if you missed that one, you can go ahead and watch it. But in this one, I'm actually going to be sewing up the shorts using the pattern. We have the shorts that I used in order to make the pattern. We have the front pattern, the back pattern, and the pocket bag. So more explanation on that in the other video. I have the new fabric. This is the navy fabric with the strawberries. This is the cute print that's going to be for the shorts. Thread with a bobbin. I'm probably have to wind it at some point. Pins, rotary cutter, elastic, and scissors. I have put out my cutting mat because I definitely want to transition to rotary cutter cutting because it's faster. So I have some weights for that. So I'll show you the process of how I cut everything out. And of course, last but not least, we have coffee because that's crucial. And then you see my sewing machine right there. Starting out by rolling up the sleeves and laying out the fabric. This is the pocket bag pattern. Since I made it in such a way to conserve paper, I didn't make a separate piece for the other part of the pocket bag, so I'm just folding it back and cutting out another piece without that corner. Don't cut your fingernail. Here I am just measuring how long the waistband needs to be in the front and in the back. I thought about this for a hot minute, and this waistband has an understitch over here, so the front of the waistband and the back of the waistband are two separate pieces. So I could make it just like the back is, just one solid piece that's rolled over, but I think this gives it really nice structure in the front, which we all want that in our shorts. So I'm just going to repeat exactly what's over here. Here's what we've got. We've got 2 of the front pants, 2 of the back pants, 4 of the pockets, 2 with the corner, 2 without. We have the drawstrings, a front waistband, and a back waistband. So we're ready to sew. Here I am threading my machine and using the automatic needle threader. You can see the first time that I tried it, I didn't really quite get it through the eye of the needle. So the second time was the charm. I'm going to start with the back of the waistband. Now we're going to connect the center back at that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Since this is the center back seam, I'm making my stitch length a little bit shorter, so at 2 millimeters, because this is a high stress area from sitting all the time. So I just want to make sure that I reinforce it a little bit extra. Be careful to match up your intersecting seams here. This is how the pocket bag will be installed into the shorts. So let's go ahead and do that. First, I'm going to put right sides together and sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance along here. Before I take this out of the machine, I'm going to do an understitch on the side of the pocket bag to make sure that it folds nice and neat inside. And for this part, I'm making sure that my seam allowance is facing towards the pocket bag itself. If you're worried about the opening of the pocket stretching out because it's on the bias, you can insert a strip of seam tape here. There you have it, and wow, I sewed this without the right presser foot. Pretty proud of myself. Now placing the other side of the pocket bag on top, pinning this, and I'm actually going to overlock this on the regular machine. Notice that I pinned this in this orientation, so as I'm sewing I can remove my pins. I thought I could be speedy and get away with not exchanging the presser foot on my machine, but as you can see, it did not look cute, so I'm going to swap it out for this one. It does look better with the foot than without the foot, obviously. We just tried to be speedy, and that's not always the way to go. Before moving forward, I'm just pressing all of my overlocked seams flat and pressing my pocket so it looks nice and neat from the outside. The pocket can now be attached to the waist and to the side seam. Then I will be connecting the center front and attaching that waistband. Here I'm putting the right sides together of the front of the shorts, and I'm going to be sewing the center front at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then before I put the waistband on, I need to overlock it too. It looks like I need some interfacing for the waistband that I didn't think about, so I'm just going to cut that out real quick and get back to action. I measured out the placement of the 2 buttonholes along the front of the waistband, and here I am just swapping out into the automatic buttonhole presser foot. I ended up reinforcing these in the back with a little bit of muslin, so here I am just trimming that away. When it comes to opening buttonholes, I actually don't love that technique where you put your pin in through one side and then you insert your seam ripper into that opening, and technically you're supposed to be able to slide your seam ripper all the way down until you reach the end here. Well, I feel like I don't love that. Like, I want to get as close to these stitches with my seam ripper as possible, so I'll slide it across as much as I can get it, or at least halfway, and then I will come into the other side, poke my seam ripper through, and finish off opening up the other side. That works for me, and I just clean up the hole and apply fray check. I could use a loop turner to make these straps, these drawstrings for the waistband, but I kind of like how the top stitch strengthens it a little bit, so I decided to use a bias tape maker to make some, fold it in half, and then top stitch. To create the end here, I'm going to fold this backwards, kind of right sides together, and I'm going to sew 1/4 inch of a seam allowance down here so I can flip it out, and it's going to create a nice neat finish. Using the presser foot with a guide on it really allows me to have equal distance from the needle to the edge of my project throughout a really long strip like this, so it's going to look really uniform. Now that the ties are done, putting the belt right sides together, I'm going to stitch the top of it and then understitch. And I'm just attaching it in the middle here and in the middle here. So the ties are attached over here and they're coming out of the holes here, the buttonholes. I'm just making sure that my stitch is on the bottom. I'm using a template here to press that seam allowance from the inside of the waistband up 1/4 inch. So when I top stitch it or stitch it in the ditch, I'll be able to catch that seam allowance. For the front shorts, we're going to place right sides together and pin that belt on, beginning end, and pin in the middle. So the front waistband is pressed and in. I'm going to put right sides together. By the way, let's take a moment. Look how cute this is starting to look. I love it. Anyway, right sides together and pin the side seams. And I'm going to open up that waistband so I can sew those side seams, and then I'm going to close the waistband all together. Again, we have those intersecting seams. So I've measured out the length of the elastic that I need for the shorts. I'm going to stitch it here and here, and then I'm going to have to stretch it out as I'm folding this part over. So here's half of the waistband pinned. I'm not even going to, this is the center back seam. I'm not even going to worry about this entire other side. And I'm going to flip it back and just sew one half at a time. And this is not a stitch in the ditch. This is right next to the seam here. And the key is to not catch any of the elastic when I'm sewing this. So I'm kind of feeling here with my finger, with my fingernail, where that elastic is, so I can guide this along and hopefully catch it on the back side. Oh my god, it's catching! It's not the straightest over here, but hey, that's where it's going to transition into the other side, so we're okay with this. Handmade, okay? Handmade. I bet you that in the factory, they just have like a two-step process to make this waistband. For the stitch in the ditch, I am using this presser foot again with the guide on it, and I'm aligning the needle in line with that guide. So hopefully when I place my seam inside that guide, it's going to create that stitch right in between that seam line for me. Almost done. Now we just sew the crotch seam. Here I am just double checking that my intersecting seams are exactly how I want them. And I'm using the overlock stitching on my machine. It's always a good idea to trim everything nice and even so it can get caught under there, since we're not trimming the edges with a knife like we would on a typical serger. And the last step is to hem. So we're just turning over the fabric a 1/4 inch away and then 3/4 of an inch away from the raw edge, and then top stitching. They're done. Huh, so cute. So we have that really cute waistband with the understitching, the stitching in the ditch, the elastic, the pockets, the overlocking on the machine, the intersecting seams over here in the crotch and along the waistband, and then of course the twice turned hem. And I think that's about all the goodies that we had. Oh yeah, and we also had the waistband that's got the two edges locked in there. So yeah, let me know how you like this project. I really enjoyed getting it off my work table, to be honest with you. I've been meaning to make these shorts for the longest time, but I did challenge myself because I am very much used to working on the industrial machine, and working on the tabletop machine was completely different challenge for me. So I'm glad I can still do it. I'm excited to practice with it some more, so let me know what I should make next. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow the sewing resource for more.